Hello and welcome to Loaded Mag, or Loaded Maggie, as Joe Willock likes to call us. We're back. We're back for episode 6, the Star Wars version, and those dark forces. I think we're going to bring one of our regulars on to the show tonight. Let's welcome Nate from Burnley, who's going to bring home the bacon and get us those take those points off Fulham and guarantee our safety on Monday night. Here's Nate.
Hi guys, you alright?
Welcome, Nate.
You all right?
Even mate. You all right?
Thank you for having us.
You're
Long
welcome.
time, mate. We need to be getting you on more regular. We keep forgetting about you because you're so far away.
Lads, I thought we'd start the show when we look back at Leicester. Yeah, I've got about six topics to get through. So let's talk about the great result on Friday night. Let's look at the team. There was 2 changes with Kraft coming in, and we were all fearful of that change. Willock getting his start, which he thoroughly deserved, and he took it as well. Started off as well. There was an injury to Johnny Evans. And it kind of shuffled Leicester's plans, and that was nice to see. And they never really recovered from that. And the first goal came with a mistake from Lord Farquhar, as I like to call him, and he doesn't mind that himself. He gets the joke. The Turkish defender from Leicester, but yeah, it was Willock that came in and slotted home the first goal from the mistake. From the defender, and nice goal from Willock. Still in the first half, Dummett rose high from I think it was a Richie corner, and got a nice goal there to take us to 2-0. That took us to half time. Then in the second half, we had a brace from Wilson. First of them being a lovely through ball from Richie, and the second being a through ball from Almiron. This isn't the actual goal, that's still the first goal. But that all ended in a nice result. In the end, 4-2 result. Leicester did get 2 goals, but we won't mention that. We were on a roll. It would have been nice to get the clean sheet, but just delighted with the result. And happy campers in the changing room as well after the game. Some people a bit pissed off about this picture, but hey, happy campers. It's good to see the morale is good, and long may that continue. So, and it's just as well some stats on the game as well. We can refer back to that as well when we're having a bit of chat. But yeah, myself and you, Rich, were on Match Day Live. It was a great show. But what did you make of the game, lads?
I thought it was a fantastic game. I think we were all a bit fearful for the worst when we saw the team that with that, especially Kraft being in, and I think it was just that. I think it was lucky that Evans, got injured in the warm-up, because I think it did throw at Leicester. Obviously, they had their set system and stuff like that. And I think Brendan Rodgers mentioned at the end of the game that Johnny Evans is like the organizer. He's like the captain of the defence and stuff like that. He runs everything. So to lose someone like that, yes, okay, Fafard is a really good, promising player. And saying shoes, he has his good days, has his bad days, but literally the back three could not cope with Wilson and Almiron, the pace and obviously the runners from Willock as well. But I think first half we were just immense. The press that we had, we didn't give him any time on the ball. The Willock, when he dispossessed Sancho for the first goal, it was fantastic. Should have been one before that when Wilson put the ball in maximum, but if it was the other way around, you'd have said that Bradford made a good save, so that's what you've got to give Schmeichel his dues. But I think if it had been Wilson instead of Max, I think we'd probably put this one up then. But continued the second half. It was fantastic. I think Richie's ball for Wilson's first, it was just lovely the way he curled it around Castagne, and Wilson was able to force him off the ball. Nice round the keeper on post finish. And then obviously with the rebound off his original shot for his second goal was a nice little finish from a tight angle as well. Shame we couldn't see it out the last 10 minutes. I think it would have been fantastic for Dubravka and the defence, especially Dubravka on his 100th appearance to have a clean sheet. For the first 80 minutes, I think I mentioned on Matchday Live, his performance was reminiscent of his debut against Man United. He just literally everything that was thrown at him, he was just kicking it out. Some of the saves were phenomenal. Deserved man of the match, in my opinion, from what you give us on Match Day Live. I think Sky gave it to Callum Wilson, to be fair, who had a fantastic game as well. I don't think he had much of a chance with that Albright's goal. It was a good finish. Unfortunately, stopped his defending for the second. And I think we just tired the last 10 minutes or so. That's probably something that we need to work on fitness-wise. But, if you told us we would win 4-2 to start the game, I wouldn't have believed you. I predicted a draw. I'd have been happy with that. There was a point further away from safety. But a performance like that, 4 goals, 3 points, what more can you ask for, lads?
And I know there's a guy smiling there at the bottom row who did predict a Newcastle win and who will let us know about it now.
Do you know what? No, I'm not going to rub it in. But what I would say is if you do go back and you do watch Wednesday's episode of Loaded Football Weekly, I would just like to point out Richie's little giggle after my score prediction, which I think is even funnier, the fact that I did actually predict a win. But there is just a slight pause and then just a little giggle from my colleague above me here, who obviously to much merriment thought I was off me rocker. But yet again, going on the outside hedging bets as a masterstroke, yet again by me. Look, all joking aside, it was a cracking game. I managed to just sit and enjoy my drink and watch the game because I was on obviously the Match Day Live and internet went down, and when I came back, Babbo had robbed me slot, so I was promptly kicked out and wasn't allowed back on. Game wise, yeah, look, just to shadow what Richie said, really, I think the two passes, Richie's for Wilson's first goal and then Almiron's, I think Richie's pass, quite right, he has grabbed the headlines, curling it around Castagna. Schmeichel obviously starts to come thinking Castagna is going to get a leg on it and get in front of it. Obviously doesn't, and Wilson finishes with coolness. But I think the second of his goals and the ball where he kind of points it through and Almiron lays it on, I actually think is a better pass because it's, Wilson physically points and calls it. So I think there's a lot more in it, but they were 2 great passes. I think, unfortunate for Leicester, Johnny Evans, obviously got injured in the warm-up. And as Brendan Rodgers said, he's kind of the brains in the defence, which, I suppose if you're another Leicester defender, you're kind of looking at going, oh, hang on a minute, Gaffer, what? Well, yeah, he's the brains. We know that footballers don't have brains anyway, most of them. But it was interesting. I think they were I don't think they fully recovered at the back for it. I think, as Pete said yesterday on the worldwide, like Fofana's got masses of potential. Kid's only 20 years old. So you couldn't really, dig him out too much. Sonshi, on the other hand, is experienced, Turkish international. I thought he had a shocker. Vardy obviously hasn't scored in any amount. So to be honest, I actually wasn't that worried about Vardy, more worried about Inecho, who was currently the most informed striker in the country. Scored, probably Dubravka should have done better, but when you look at the save from Dubravka one-on-one with Ayoze Perez, it's an outstanding save. So again, it's hard to go back and kind of have a knock at any of the lads. I thought as a team we played well. Transition was really good. Counter-attack was set up. And I think Leicester underestimated us. I think they went into that with perhaps one eye on a final. Haven't had a look at obviously our results and positioning in the league and went, this is a walk in the park. And I think they were outplayed in every department. Okay, sloppy last 10 minutes, but legs had gone. You could see the tiredness coming in. It wouldn't be Newcastle without sitting with a twitchy backside for 10 minutes. Because obviously when the first 1 or 2 go in, you're going, here we go. Because I did text Chris Hall and ask him for odds on 4-4. And he was reluctant to give me them. But it was, it was a cracker game, and credit to Steve Bruce, to Graham Jones, to the coaching staff, and to the players. When we play it right, and we're tactically aware and we get it right, it shows that the squad we've got doesn't justify the position that we're in. But you would question it and go, well, where's that been? I mean, Twitter was awash on Friday night with a majority of Newcastle fans asking the same question, which was, where the hell has that performance been? Probably best performance of the season for me. It was a good game. Thoroughly enjoyed. just sitting with me few beers and watching a win and taking that pressure off and safety. So yeah, hopefully Burnley do us a favour on Monday night and put it beyond doubt.
Exactly. Nate, your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, going into the game, I was very worried. I spoke to Chris Hall before it, and I said, "Do you know what? I fancy us to get something," but I didn't, in my heart of hearts, think it would have panned out like that. I maybe expected we might be able to get a point if we were lucky, but to be honest, it was a very pleasant surprise. It started off, we could have been ahead even before that first goal went in when St. Maximin was through with Wilson, and I think they could have done a lot better there, and we could have been ahead even quicker. Thought Dubravka was fantastic, wasn't he? He silenced any doubters out there that that have suggested that it was harsh on Darlow to be dropped. Yeah, it was, but that's why Dubravka's our number one keeper. He reminded me of it was a performance that reminded me of Shea Given. I remember growing up watching Shea Given, and he was worth 12, 15 points on his own every season, wasn't he? In how he kept us in games, and it was it was reminiscent of that, and that's the Martin Dubravka that we've come to expect when he's at the top of his game. Like everyone else said, I was really worried about Kraft coming back into the team. He's been a weak link for me throughout the season. Nowhere near a Premier League player. I thought Fernandes covered up for him very well. I think Fernandes he won a lot of aerial duels. I thought he was very dominant in the air against Iheanacho, and yeah, I think so. It made for Kraft having a bit of an easier evening than he might have done. I think it's interesting to note how with Lascelles missing for the recent run of games, and all of a sudden we're picking up points and we're doing a lot better and we're looking a lot better defensively. There's no coincidence there for me. That's exactly what I expected to happen. Is a liability as his Kraft is for me. Getting Dummett back into the team, Paul Dummett is the old reliable left back, isn't he? I think we've looked a lot more balanced with him in the team. He gives us a lot of he gives us tracking back, he gives us work rate, he gives us effort. He's not the best going forward, granted, but he's you can rely on him, and you'd put your house on him, wouldn't you? I think Richie's impact is everyone's been waxing lyrical about Matt Ritchie. I think he set up the goal for Dummett, but looking back at over the last sort of 4 or 5 games, how many goals is that he's set up now? Like what, 4, 5, maybe 3 or 4, 5, something like that. So yeah, how important is that? That's defined the end of our season running, isn't it? Those goals when we've been struggling to create goals all season. Obviously Willock has been a revelation, hasn't he? He's been fantastic. I think he's making it more and more each week that goes by. It's more and more unlikely that he's probably going to be here next season, or he's pricing us out week in, week out, isn't he? He's adding 5 million each week to his transfer fee that Arsenal are going to be commanding. And I don't see why they would let him go on after the way that he's shown to be able to perform. Almiron's work rate he was always a nuisance. That pace, that energy, thought he was fantastic. And yeah, St. Maximin and Wilson sort of leading the line. Our goals, it was reminiscent for me of how we played under Rafa, with just a really quick striker and on the break, and balls coming from really deep and just causing them all sorts of problems. That's the way it looked to me. It looked like when we played Leicester under Rafa, and we put in that fantastic performance in one of Rafa's last few games. It seemed to me like catching teams on the break and looking really dangerous. And I think that any team are going to struggle with that pace up front, whoever we might come up against. But it's just setting them up and actually playing that way, which we don't often see, do we? So I think it's going to be a tough call next week against Man City. I think it'll be a very different game, but we've been due a performance like that, haven't we? We've been due a dominant performance. I think even some of the good wins so far this season, they've not really been commanding, and they've not been convincing for the majority of the game. But I think that game, obviously the last 10 minutes, that's a typical leading Newcastle last 10 minutes, isn't it? Conceding a couple of goals, or giving everyone a heart attack. But it's the first time I've seen us this season really dominate a game, and it was really pleasing to see.
Cheers, Nate. And welcome, Chris.
Hi, lads.
Great to see you're back with the buns, Princess Leia.
Oh man! I'm never gonna live this down, am I?
Yeah.
No.
Back, Chris. You're back.
May the 4th be with you.
Exactly. And Chris, what did you make of? Yeah, you were on Matchday Live with us, of course. And
Yes.
anything else you want to comment on the game, Chris, in general?
Yeah, obviously it was a real complete game for the first 70, 80 minutes, and then pretty unfortunate last 10 minutes. Went from sort of win in the bag to like bit of a squeaky bum time for being up 4-0. You wouldn't think that you would let them back in the game. That was a bit of a worry. Um, I think Martin Dubravka played a hell of a match. He kept us in the match. No, I'm not on MBS's yacht. Uh, he's consistently our best player. It just shows that Steve Bruce was wrong to hold him out from coming back in the starting lineup as long as he did. We caught Darlow on the incline, but then also on the decline, and he sort of in financial terms, you'd want to buy the dip and put Dubravka in there. So he kind of waited too long to do that in the season. But fair play to Steve Bruce. I don't give him a lot of credit. I don't think he should be necessarily be manager of the month for last month. But coming from where we were after the Brighton match, when even the most optimistic people like myself were sort of like, well, if they can't even show up to Brighton, how are they going to secure safety? So to come back from that to where we are now is a pretty big accomplishment. And as much as it pains me to give any kind of credit to Steve Bruce, he does play his part in that. It's sort of been we haven't seen much of Graham Jones lately, so we wonder kind of what his contribution is and whether Steve Bruce kind of taking the gloves off more and asserting more control over the club. He's always going to go with Shelby, which is a worry. Shelby's sort of good for like one or two losses in terms of like him not being able to give the hustle. And so, if I were picking the first 11, Shelby would not be in there. But, he is the vice captain. So with Lascelles out, he is a favorite of Bruce. So Shelby's always going to be in there. And the other lads who play the same position have to really sort of outplay him twice as much for Steve Bruce to even get them a notice. So, like, you've had Longstaff in there, and we've talked in the past about how Longstaff's pairing with Shelby kind of impedes his development, and Shelby kind of resents having the young lad out there. And you almost sort of feel the same way with Willick and maybe like Murphy and stuff like that. So Shelby doesn't really help the development of the younger players, and that's another reason why I wouldn't have him out there every week, because we want to bring up, we want to develop Willick, we want to give Murphy more. I would be playing Murphy more in an attacking role. I know he sits him back in the sort of a back four, back five because of just the lineups that we have, but I think Murphy is much more suited to be playing more of a midfield
Right winger.
role. Yeah, exactly. So I don't know, sort of retooling the lineup, who you take out, but I'd be pushing Murphy up to a winger and not having me sitting back. I mean, he's one of those guys that's going to be involved in the attack no matter what position he's in. But I'd be pushing him forward more. And then this question of what's happened to Matty Longstaff. I would have. I'd just like to see him play and then give some playing time. Now that we're basically secure, I'd give playing time to all of the sort of youngsters that we've got, sort of near the first team or sort of on the first team, but not getting the game action because we need to see what we've got, because takeover or no takeover, like developing the academy has to be a priority. And so we want to see what we've got in the lineup. And then sort of one more issue I want to talk about is in terms of the goalkeepers. I would expect Darlow to leave, so I would bring back Freddie Woodman next year as the backup to.
Sorry, I'm so laughing at Stu.
I know. Come on, I'm sure. I'm just talking. I think that Woodman should be the backup to Dubravka, and get something back for Darlow. Okay, Stu, I'm gonna zip
Okay.
Just move Chris to that top left-hand corner.
Cool. Thanks, Chris.
He comes on 15 minutes late and then tries to make up for it all in one question.
Yeah, no, exactly.
And that's the show.
Exactly, that's the show. Yeah.
That's exactly what I'm going to say.
He's putting that picture of his banister on and London in the background will win him favours.
I'm always Marcel Proust in search of lost time.
And it's like, I sent you the link yesterday and the time we were going on, dude, and you still don't make it.
Lads, I want to go to the question from Tom because
it's Mother's Day in the US.
It leads into our next topic. It's about the running and we all think we're safe now at this stage, but let's just look at it anyway. Look at our game. When I put this together, I started putting this together. It was for a few days ago, so I just edited it slightly. Yeah, obviously we won. Arsenal and West Brom are playing at the moment, and Fulham and Burnley play on Monday. And Fulham need to win all their games, and by some miracle, and we need to get nothing and have it really mess up our goal difference. But it's never going to happen. We are safe. There's nothing to worry about. Anyone else have anything comment on other than that?
Yeah, I can't see Fulham winning all four. I think it's look, they might pick up two, but I think again, the game pretty much at the end of the season between the two of us hopefully isn't going to mean anything. I can't see them beating Man United. Man United won today, despite being behind against Villa, came back 3-1, looked strong. So I just can't see it. I think obviously Arsenal and West Brom playing at the minute. That's still 0-0, I think it is. Although West Brom, as Richie said, West Brom did hit the bar. You'd expect Arsenal to go on and win that. I mean, a point's no good for West Brom, so I think they're pretty much done. They've got Liverpool next and West Ham, so look, that's done. So I think Southampton I think Southampton Fulham's probably a point, and I think they get beat off Man U. So look, they don't win tomorrow night against Burnley. It's game over anyway for absolute safety for us. But I can't see them winning all four. Not a hope.
I've got it down as a draw tomorrow. I don't see Fulham beating Burnley tomorrow. I don't think Burnley will win because I think Chris Wood's injured, but I don't see Fulham have got what it takes to break them down.
They start with Rodriguez then, will they? Rodriguez and
I think so. Vidra, or maybe Ashley Barnes. Ashley Barnes and Vidra, maybe. Yeah,
he normally start. Yeah, it could be Barnes. I've seen him start with Barnes and Rodriguez a couple of times this season as well. So you wouldn't know, but I don't know. I kind of have a funny feeling. I think Burnley have enough to win it, but I could be wrong.
Okay, I'm going to take this opportunity to say shout out to Chris Hall and get well soon, Chris. Hopefully we see you back on Wednesday, as Martin does the moany face. And I also want to say to people, thanks for watching. Like and comment and hit that subscribe button if you've not done so already. Thanks, everybody. And before I forget, Martin, I think we'll go to you and just give the shout out to the sponsor.
Yeah, obviously Bruce and the team down in Centre Hill on Central State, right on the platform on Central Station. Purveyors of fine ales, craft beers, distilled wines and gins, all from in and around the Northeast region, and also from all around the world. I retweeted a few pics there the other day of some fine American craft beers coming in, and different bits and pieces. So yeah, the guys are sponsoring us there. We have got some giveaways to do, so we will try and line up something, maybe a question or some bit of a competition. And if you are local to Newcastle, to the Central Station, we will. If you win it, we'll get you in there, and you can pick up some goodies from Bruce. If you don't live local, he has texted me to say he can possibly do something postal wise. Obviously not a pint glass or a big bottle of gin, but he will. He does have a couple of bits and pieces. So get in there if you're into your craft beers and all that kind of stuff. Get in there, vegan beers and everything else. So thanks for the sponsorship of Loaded Mag.
Bruce in. Cheers.
Bruce in. Yeah, exactly.
Okay, next topic, guys. I want to talk about everybody's favorite topic, the takeover, and more. And I suppose let's focus on the tanks that are parked outside the lawn of the Premier League. One being the one that's going or gone or in the middle of, whatever you have in yourself, arbitration, and then the new one that the case that Keith has been working on and has reported during the week. The dots have now joined, and Mike Ashley's taken this one as well. So two cases for the Premier League, and of course, as we said, as we found out as well, Man City have a case as well up with the Premier League. So yeah, they're under a bit of pressure. So what's your thoughts on this, lads? Is it only a matter of time before this is done and dusted?
Yes, I think you'd like to think so, wouldn't you? That I think some of the information that Keith passed over to Mike Ashley's legal team and stuff like that for them to take it on. They wouldn't have took it on if it wasn't. I don't think it was as a cert. I think some of the information that gathered was pretty damning towards the Premier League, and I think one of the things that I don't know if people missed it or not, but one of the legal cases, obviously, the arbitration is based on Newcastle United, whereas the second lawsuit's actually St James's Holding, which is Mike Ashley's holding company for NUFC. So, it's more of a private for him sort of thing on that one. But I think with both of them lined up with the evidence that's there, I cannot see how they can't push it through. I really, really can't. Hopefully, it's just done in time. So, we can get a new manager in, we can get some players lined up, and be actually looking forward to positivity this season rather than constantly looking over our shoulder and the threat of relegation every season.
You're on mute, Martin.
Yeah.
I did a spenny. Amateur. We were chatting about it yesterday. I was talking over the two cases, but I think it'll happen. But I think, look, we've got a fairly more a more legal minded and a more experienced person in Chris to give us a bit of an update on this kind of thing. So I'll default to him whilst my child buzzes me in the background, and the wife is in the sitting room folding the washing. Yeah, it's just a typical night on Loaded Mag, lads. What can I say?
He's fascinated to see himself on the phone.
I tell you one thing, I am gonna. I have to invest in the green screen. There you go. There's Richie. Sorry, I'll shout it out while he's on. So Arsenal have scored 1-0 to Arsenal. Smith over the goal. But yeah, Chris probably knows a bit more about it than I would. But I think certainly Ashley's quite clever in the factor of having the two cases. I think obviously one under the club and one under himself. I think the one under his own name for the case against the competition, I think is quite clever in that it forces the entire openness, and that they have to disclose everything from emails to WhatsApp groups and everything else, which I think the Premier League aren't going to want that, and we know they're going to want to keep as much hidden as they can. So I think that will probably fast track a quicker path to something being agreed outside of the courts, and perhaps not a long lead for arbitration, which obviously stuff that does come out would be handy for the arbitration. But I'll hand over to Chris. That would be my view, but Chris is probably more in place to give us a view really from what it probably means from a more legalistic point of view, I think.
Sure. I'll take my best shot here. So one thing that people were asking was, why doesn't Keith's lawyer, Keith's QC, Robert O'Donoghue, why is he not the QC to take Mike Ashley's case forward? And that has to do with basically how QCs or barristers are instructed. So it's up to Mike Ashley's lawyers, law firm Denton's solicitors, and they will check with the available barristers, and it's possible that they did ask O'Donoghue, and his plate was just too full to take it on. Barristers are supposed to take a case if they can reasonably do it. If there's no conflicts in it, they do have the schedule, but this could come down to O'Donoghue's not being scheduled for it. But we do have a good any competition lawyer in Daniel Jowl. So he's got a pretty good CV, and confident that he's a great person to be the person to take the case forward. And yeah, this is another thing I would say is that this is not Mike Ashley sort of hedging his bets and saying, well, it doesn't look good for the arbitration. This really has no effect on the bearing of the arbitration has really no effect on this case. This case, there's two ways it could go. It could go to the panel, or it could go to a full-on legal case. And the disclosure that Martin was talking about, that will only happen if we go to the full trial. But there seems like there is probably enough pressure to get this settled before it goes to a full-on court case, and that it will be settled in this ended competition tribunal before it goes to a full trial. And as far as timelines, it's really hard. You never want to make predictions in legal forums when you say, when should this be done? I would probably still expect us to hear about the arbitration either going forward or being settled before we have a resolution in the Mike Ashley anti-competition case. And probably the earliest that we'll hear about the arbitration case is this summer. So I wouldn't expect anything from the anti-competition case at least until the fall. So if we're trying to place around how does this work for a takeover, I don't think that the anti-competition case is going to be the one that unlocks the takeover unless it's there's just so much evidence that kind of comes out that the Premier League is sort of puts up the white flag and says, okay, we don't have any enough to continue to block this, and we'll allow the takeover to go forward. So I would, both the cases I would expect not to go full trial. I would expect sort of out of court settlements, but the one that I would still be more interested in is the arbitration, because that's the key issue is there a separation between the Saudi state and PIF, and that has more bearing on whether the takeover goes through than the anti-competition. That's more of sort of where Mike Ashley sort of get something else back besides the sale of the club.
Yeah, Chris, I agree with you that this seems to be the one that might try and push the arbitration one further and make it all happen a bit quicker for us all. Nate, your thoughts?
Yeah, I think as Chris said there, I think it's just another prong to the attack for me. This Mike Ashley taking this case on, I think it's another thing that's going to sit in the background, and it's a case of, like past the takeover, and then this goes away as well. I think that's it's another bargaining chip for him, as well as Martin and Chris said. I think it might be another vehicle to extract some information to make more things come to light that perhaps aren't covered in the scope of the arbitration for the honours and directors test. So I think there might be there may be more gems that could come out of that, which may further that process too. But yeah, I think it's going to be a case of the pass the takeover and then this goes away too. I think that's Ashley's sort of line of attack here. From what I'm led to believe, I think there's the case has been submitted, and there should be a case management hearing, a case management conference within the next week or 10 days. So I'm led to believe, and I think that was written by Liam Kennedy, I believe. So I think from that, as Chris has said, with whether they'll find out whether this is going to get expedited or it's going to be resolved within that same process. I think we should hear something within the next week or 10 days. So I'm led to believe. So yeah. Hopefully, I think it, like I said, I think it will further the arbitration case, and hopefully we can draw a line under it and we don't have to talk about this anymore. It'd be nice, lads, wouldn't it?
Oh, another year of it. Yeah. No thanks. Thanks, Nate. Guys, I'm going to go to next section that I had thought of, and I'm going to give you the 3 topics, and then we can talk about one of them or all of them, whatever. We go around the house again. First being, this is kind of paper talk, is what we talk about here. So, Christopher Azure from Celtic. We've been heavily linked with him. I suppose, yeah, it depends on who's in charge, and if we're going into the season with Bruce and Ashley, is this lad an option? Even if we do get a takeover, is he still an option? That's one topic number one. Gattuso was also linked with Newcastle this week. It could have been red herring. It might have been even quashed by now, but it was talked the other day. And the last topic I want to bring in is the interview with this man. And do you think he's coming back? I would love it if he did come back. And I think if the takeover goes through, or when the takeover goes through, he will be back as long as he's not snapped up in the meantime. And it's just about getting it done as quick as possible. So there's your 3 topics. Rich, we'll go to you first.
Just looking at the scores before I get on with Arsenal are now 2 up. Pepe has scored an absolute screamer, so that looks like West Brom done and dusted for the Premier League this year. I'll start with
and Fat Sam. Fat Sam's first ever relegation. Thank God. Hate the man.
I know. See, he'll not be there next year.
Nice fella.
He won't go down with them. He's like he'll walk with a nice handshake for doing quite well. Regards paper talk, I think I've heard mixed reports about Christopher Ayer. I think some of them are saying, some people are saying he might not be able to cope with the speed of the Premier League and stuff like that. I know Lee Clark. I've read a report saying that Lee Clark really, really rates him from obviously his time when he was up as manager of Kilmarnock, and he said he was a really, really good player. I think the only thing you could hope for is someone that Newcastle do pursue. I know that. The player himself got his heart set on joining Newcastle in the summer. You just hope he's someone in the same sort of mould as Van Dijk, when obviously when he was at Celtic. There was a lot of other people who weren't prepared to take the risk on Van Dijk when he was at Celtic because they didn't know whether he'd make the crossover from Scottish football to English football. So you never know. Hopefully, he does something like that. I think the talk that's been mentioned player-wise over the last couple of days, obviously Willock. Steve Bruce has apparently said he doesn't know whether Willock's performances will actually hinder making a deal possible for next season in some way, because obviously Arsenal haven't been scoring many goals in midfield this year, and Willock's been on fire. So has he played himself back into their squad, or has his asking price gone up? That's something we'll just have to hopefully. You realise that we've given them the game time, and you can see what we're going to possibly be under a takeover as well, and how performances have been since he's come in, where we've looked at different team full stuff. I think the other one that I saw linked today was, I know that me and Martin have mentioned him a couple of times, and we've liked him when we've watched him, was Conor Gallagher, who's on loan at West Brom this season. He's been mentioned that. I think it's Leeds, Palace and ourselves are possibly linked with taking him on loan next year. Apparently the player himself wants to fight for his place at Chelsea, but I think with the players that Chelsea have got in their midfield at the moment, and who they've got out on loan, as well. So I imagine he'll probably go on loan again, unfortunately, next year for himself. But be an interesting sort of player for us to bring in. But even someone like Ross Barkley at Villa, he'll be going back. He'll just the creative sort of player that we'd be looking for. So perhaps that he might be an option as well for ourselves. Regards Gattuso and Benitez, I think Gattuso was a bit of a red herring, full stop. Personally, I don't think his style would possibly suit the Premier League. I'm sorry, I know he's still relatively new as a manager himself. I don't know if he would be tactically aware as required for the Premier League, in my opinion. Regards Benitez, I think everything is set up for him to come back. I think the only thing I'm slightly wary of is the fact that Spurs haven't made an appointment as yet, and that's the only other team that he could possibly be tempted to go to. The only thing that may stop him from going is the fact that I imagine there's going to be not much money to spend unless they sell Harry Kane.
Cheers, Rich. No, that was a good summary there, and yeah, I did see the other items as well, the other players linked. But yeah, nice one for bringing that up. And you stole my second topic after this, but I will give it. Let's go to Martin on Rafa, Azure, and Gattuso.
Yeah, same as Richie. I think the Gattuso is just a bit of paper talk. I think the fact that Rafa hasn't done anything yet. I thought the interview was quite interesting. I think we all know if and when the takeover happens, or more predictably when the takeover goes through, we know that the consortium want Rafa to come back. We know that Rafa wants to come back. So I think that's pretty much a done deal, I would think. I mean, he could have his choice of clubs, really. So I think the fact that he hasn't taken up anything and there has been a couple of vacancies, to me, kind of tells you its own picture. And I think maybe leaving China when he did, I think was possibly at a stage when we thought the takeover was going to go through, and he came away from that. So I would definitely think there's been communication between the likes of Stavely and the consortium and Rafa. So yeah, hopefully, look, we take him back. Gattuso, yeah, paper talk. I think Stu Penman just put a good point on the likes of the midfielders if we don't get Willock. I don't think we will keep Willock. I think he'll go back. I think he'll go back to Arsenal. He might come back on loan next season. But Conor Gallagher was one I shouted out early in the season when we played West Brom. And as Stu said there, Billy Gilmore from Chelsea. I'd love to see us take a hold of. We've also got Anderson. I'd like to see Anderson get a little bit of game time. I think we need to answer the questions in midfield with regards to the Longstaffs, in particular Matty, as to what we do have on the bench and on our books with regards to midfield. But for me, Shelby needs to be nowhere near that team again next season, and the same for Lascelles. So I'd like to see Aya come in. He is prone to a mistake. He's not a Van Dijk, but is he better than what we've got? Yeah, I think so. So it'd be interesting. I mean, he's good in the air. He's strong. He can play a ball, but with all due respect, it's playing in the Scottish Premier League. Would he hold up and make that transition to the Premier League? I'm not convinced yet.
Yeah, would he be Van Dijk or a boom song? Yeah, coming from.
Yeah, I'm not convinced in the step up, but yeah, look, we'll see. But yeah, I mean, I'd love to keep a hold of Willock. I think he's been outstanding, but as you said, I think the more he's done well this season, I think the more he outprices himself, and I can't see Newcastle. If the takeover is not resolved, I can't see us coughing up 20 million for him. It's just not going to happen. So,
cheers, Martin. We'll go to Nathan next.
Yeah, I think my initial thought about the lad from Celtic, I haven't seen anything of him. Don't really watch Scottish football. Rather go down the park and watch some lads have a kick about, I think, than watch that lot up there, to be honest with you. But but for me, it just my first thought, like, even he looks a bit like him. What about Florian Lejeune? Why not? Why can he not come back in and do a job for us? Like, he even looks a bit like him. Do you know what I mean? He looks similar sort of build and frame. And by all accounts, he's been pulling up trees in over there in Spain last season. So my go-to would be, I know we've heard that Bruce doesn't fancy him, but going off Bruce's judgment so far this season, it's not stood as in really good stead, has it, so far? Until sort of Graham Jones coming and saved his ass. So for me, we need to be looking at what we've already got. I think Kel Watts, I know he picked up an injury today, I believe. I'm not sure how serious that is, but
he's in hospital. He was unconscious for a good 4 or 5 minutes on the pitch.
Was it a head injury?
Head injury. Yeah. He was out for a while now.
Yeah, they said he was in the local hospital. He was conscious though. So I think that was the latest update.
mean, those two are two people that I'd look at getting back in before ever buying a centre half from the Scottish division, because it's just a lottery, isn't it? I know there's a few gems come out of that division. I was only joking about the quality of Scottish football, but it's you never know, do you? It doesn't. When there was talk of after the Super League, when there was talk of maybe getting Celtic and Rangers to come to the Premier League, I don't think they'd last 2 minutes. I'll be perfectly honest. I don't think they'd survive a season. And that's just how, like, from what I've seen and how it plays out every week. So yeah, I think we can look closer to home, and I'm sure there's better options than a lad from Celtic, to be perfectly honest. With Gattuso, I think, like the lads have said, I think Rafa's nailed on to come back. He could have taken, if he was interested in the Tottenham job, he'd have taken it by now. I think looking at their shortlist and looking at the odds, I had a look yesterday, and I think like Potter and Scott Parker, even like people like Maurizio Sarri are higher up.
Yeah,
and I think he's like 8th or 9th favourite or something. So the bookies aren't often wrong with it. Obviously, people come out of nowhere. But yeah, I think if he would have taken the Roma job if he wanted it, if he wanted that job. I'm sure he could have taken it if he'd wanted it. So for me, I think he's nailed on to come back to us. But if for whatever reason this takeover doesn't materialise, then I think Gattuso wouldn't be a bad option. World Cup winner, has played under some great managers, played in some fantastic teams, and I think he'd give a rocket up there. Can you imagine Shelby getting away with sauntering around the pitch in a Gattuso team? Wouldn't happen.
No way.
Wouldn't happen. So, in terms of if the takeover didn't go through, then I'm sure it'd be a great project for someone like Gattuso to come over and make his name. What was the other one again? I forgot the other one about.
Rafa, Gattuso, and the Scott. Yeah, Azure. Yeah, that was it. You nailed it, Smith. You nailed it. Yeah, three topics. Yeah, Rich jumped the gun on Willock. I just want to answer Tom's question here. I think we will see Andy Carroll will get a swan song for the rain, especially when we're going to be safe, hopefully after this weekend. So yeah, he will get a run out, and that should be the end. Then I think, I'm afraid, for Andy Carroll at Newcastle, in my opinion. Anyway, but Chris, what's your thoughts on those 3 topics?
Yeah. So first, I don't really pay attention to transfers and sort of, I think it's just paper talk. Because Newcastle's really just only does like deadline day loans and signings. So anything before that is just speculation. I don't know much about this lad or Ajax, the Scottish league, anything like that. So I'm not looking after that. As far as Rafa, yeah. So the reason, of course, we all remember Rafa coming to I'm sorry, Amanda Staveley coming to Newcastle to watch the Liverpool match was on the invitation of Rafa Benitez. So, and then also recall that just before Rafa Benitez left the club, Amanda Staveley was trying to get the takeover done, and then to keep him on with the takeover. That didn't happen until he went off to China. But yeah, he's nailed on to come back when the takeover happens. Clearly, he's the first choice of Staveley and her consortium. Yeah, every job that he doesn't take just leads me to believe that more on that he's looking out for Newcastle if and when it does happen. If it doesn't happen, I don't expect him to come back under Mike Ashley. Gattuso could be an intriguing choice as far as the next manager after Steve Bruce, because I really don't want to see Steve Bruce back next season either way. But knowing Mike Ashley, if nothing's resolved, he doesn't want to have to pay the release to put Steve Bruce out on gardening duty. So he'll be back next year if there's no takeover yet. I think that's all the 3 questions, right?
Yeah, that's good, Chris. Cheers for that. Yeah, so then just we'll go to Joe Willock, and yeah, my thoughts here is yes, we should definitely sign him. I was a bit on the fence about 3 games ago, but then he kept up his scoring run, and yeah, if we can get him for 20 million, buy him. He's young enough to develop as well, even further. And yeah, even if it meant that we spend most of our money on Willock, then get loans for the rest of the signings we need if the takeover doesn't go through. But it's going to go through, so no need to worry. Rich, I know you touched on Willock. Anything else you'd say on him?
I just think he's the sort of box-to-box midfielder that we need. You know, some of the runs he's been making, he leads like he's a bit like some of like Almiron when we haven't got the ball. He's first there with the press and stuff like that. It's just that energy that we need in the midfield. We haven't had goals from midfield either this season. You know, last year I think our top goal scorer was Shelby with like 7 or 8 last year. So to play half a season, have 5 goals already. It sort of like eclipses what everybody else has done in the midfield. And, Shelby's been a passenger all year. Unfortunately, with him being the vice captain, Lascelles being out, he's been the first name on the team sheet, unfortunately. But I think if Rafa does come back in, that'll be the last we ever see of Shelby. We all know what Rafa's feelings on John Joe Shelby are. It won't be a miss, and it'd be nice to get body in there. Possibly see, your Matty Longstaffs, Elliot Anderson given a chance in there to go along with them. But the only other person I was going to mention earlier, someone who's possibly interested at centre half, who I know he'd be possibly going down this year, is Anderson at Fulham. He's been a really, really good centre half this year. I imagine there'll be quite a lot of interest in the Premier League if they do go down. So that he if we go back, if Rafa does come in and he tends to like 2 ball playing centre half, 2 players and 3 centre halves. Anderson seems to be your typical no nonsense. Will head anything. He put it the road that if needs be. He'd be perfect as that middle centre back out of the 3. Not if anyone else has seen him out with their thoughts on him, but that's just another one I'll do up there as well.
Cheers, Rich. Martin, anything else you want to say on Willock?
No.
Thanks, Martin. Thanks for your contribution. Nathan, anything you'd like to say on Willock?
Yeah, to be honest, when he first came in, like I know he's been fantastic these last couple of games. He's been excellent, and he's come off the bench and he's showed us exactly what he can do. Popped up at the right time. I think the most important thing is alive. He's alive all the time, and that shows in the last minute goals that he's got, as well as the goal that he got on Friday. With he had no right to get that ball off the centre half, and it just shows. Compare that to imagine if Joe Linton would have been in that position, then the centre half's playing it out from the back, isn't he? And he's under no danger whatsoever. But with Willett there, he was alive to it, and that's what we're missing, that urgency in the team. I still think we need another centre midfielder, a defensive centre midfielder, because I don't see that the Longstaff brothers have made the progression that they need to be top Premier League midfielders, and that's down to mismanagement. We don't really have time for them to develop anymore. I think if Sean Longstaff, he's not 17, 18 anymore. He's older now, so it's for me it's a no-brainer to buy him. But I think he's added probably about 15 million onto his price tag with the last 3 weeks and those performances. I think in his first couple of games, I think he went missing in a couple of those games. I think I wasn't overly impressed. I thought he was more down after the first goal that he scored. I think he went quite quiet after that. But he's come back in a big way in his last couple of weeks. Whether that's he's more in tune with the team, he's more familiar with people. I think Matt Ritchie coming back has helped him a lot as well. I think there's a lot more dynamism down that side. And yeah, I think he's all action and is exactly what we need. But do I see Mark Ashley forking out the money for him? Absolutely not. So unless there's a takeover going through, I don't think we'll see him after this season. But I also would think that even with a takeover going through, I don't think we may not go for him anyway. We may go for somebody else, because I don't see Arsenal selling him. I don't see us agreeing a reasonable fee with Arsenal. But which is a shame because it looks like he's enjoying his football here and it looks like he's enjoying his time. But yeah, we'll have to see on that one. There's a lot of unknowns, isn't there, at this time? So
exactly.
I think the problem is, Daz, that from a point we probably need that spine in the team that we don't currently have. So we know we've got a great keeper. You know, we've got Woodman as backup. You know, Darlow will probably move on. We've got Wilson up front, but we need another striker to go with him. That when you lose Wilson, you've still got another 15-goal man that can give you that. You know, to Nate's point, you know, Willock is the box-to-box we need, but we also need that defensive mid, i.e. a Batty type player for me that is snapping around the ankles of the opposing midfield players and breaking that ball up, because our tackling statistics are absolutely woeful as a midfield. So for me, we probably need that 4 core players of a spine, which is a proper defender, a real old-fashioned centre half, a defensive midfielder, a box-to-box, and another striker. And you know that with Maxi and the rest of them around that, we could have a really, really good team and challenge. But whether that comes to fruition, I don't think so. But we're missing that spine. You look at any good team that challenges; they have a spine, you know, and we don't have that.
Exactly, Martin, and great comment. But you did miss your chance to comment earlier, so we have to erase
That's
that.
fine. Well, Chris was late, so I thought I'd take advantage.
if you look at Leicester though from Friday, look at 2 players who didn't turn up for them on Friday, Madison and Tielemans, and even though they didn't turn up on Friday, those are the 2 types of players that we need. We've got. You could argue that maybe Willock can fit into that Madison type role. I don't think he's as good as Madison, but a player like Tielemans is what we need in that team for me.
Oh yeah, I love him.
Yeah, I don't see us buying a Willock for 20-25 million unless Mike Ashley can work out like doing an installment buy. You know, he's going to pocket 8 or 10 million from the return of the parachute payments to Watford and to with who's the other club that's definitely coming up. Like we could get all 3 all 3 clubs that were relegated last year come straight back up, and then that would give us an extra like 12 million. So I could see Mike Ashley using that outlay to do like an installment for Willock, but I don't see him paying 20 or 25 million. And one thing for Willock, I love the lad, but like Carroll or Matt Richards, someone needs to get to him and say, we don't say like let's go Maggies or you know, it's Hallway the lads, not come on you Maggies. He's got in his head that he has to say that, and someone needs to correct him on that because it makes.
I think he's just turned into a meme now, though. I think he's doing it to like take the piss and like it's got into a running joke now, hasn't it? But maybe I was thinking maybe we read the Gattuso article wrong, and maybe he's coming in to replace Shelby. That'd be
yeah. There you go.
I take him.
Good call.
You're right there. Maybe ASM has got an ear into Willock and told him the wrong cheer just to get him doing a meme.
I think we should get Louis to sort him out.
While he's scoring goals, he can call.
Sorry, Rich.
One thing we don't know, you never know, mate. He might be turning around. He might be doing a shout out to Spenny Maggie. For all we know.
Ah, there you go.
Yeah.
So lads, we're coming towards the end of the show. Just want to say, coming up on Loaded Football Weekly this Wednesday, we'll have some loaded headlines, loaded leaderboard, where Chris Hall forgot to put in his team selections this week, or for half of them anyway. That should be interesting. Poor Chris. We have some mystery guests in the shape and coming as part to play the Loaded fans' favorites 1 to 11. We have our special musical guests, our garden party, and we also have Sam Lambert joining us as well. And we'll have the quiz. You can follow us on at LoadedHQ1 on Twitter and Instagram, LoadedHQ, and on subscribe to us on YouTube, and you'll see the address there, youtube.com/C/LoadedHQ. So just want to say again to everyone, thanks for watching. Like and comment, and as I just mentioned, hit that subscribe button. is there anything else you'd like to say, lads, before we round up the night? I'd like to say thanks to Chris A and thanks to Nate for joining us on the show.
Anytime, guys. Anytime.
And thanks everyone for joining and interacting in the chat as well. I think we'll leave it there. We'll be back on Wednesday and come on Burnley on Monday night. Later, lads. Later, everyone.
Hey, folks. Thanks for watching.
Bye.